Hello, Mia DeBolt here, bringing you more transparency in trading. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to 7 figures of funding. Okay, so an update. I am recording this a few days later. This is the following week. However, day 5 video, I am going to be reviewing the trades that I took on day 5. And just to be completely transparent, you know, life happens and I had a family emergency. Our dog is really sick and I had to take care of her. So I am a little delayed in this video. However, I hope that you get a whole lot of value from it still. Okay, so let's dive into the charts, and I do want to give this spoiler alert. It was my first losing trade. So let's kind of see what I did in this trade and how I kind of mitigated this loss. What my mindset was, it's really important that we emotionally stay very neutral, and when we have a win, I'm not super exuberant and super excited, and when I have a loss, I'm not super down on myself either. So I do want you to take note of that, because losing is part of the trade. It is part of the profession. It's part of the lifestyle. And when we can't take that emotional loss, that's really where it affects us. So just staying neutral emotionally is the most important thing when it comes to mastering trading, because mastering ourselves, as ICT says, is the #1 skill that we're trying to do here. Okay, so let's dive into the charts. So as you can see, the morning of the 26th, it's 7 a.m., 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and ICT was kind of looking at some of these levels, and I just like to cross-check with him. I don't necessarily like to take trades based on what he actually is calling out, and I like to trade on my own, so I really focus in on what I'm seeing, and you'll see today was not necessarily a good thing. Okay, so I have this measured out. It's 50%. So we're in a discount technically, and the 1 hour is pushing down. However, it doesn't take this low. So I'm just gonna kind of fast forward this so that you can kind of see where I entered. So the market structure shift should be here, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a big bullish push up, and I did get a bullish push up with a fair value gap, and so that's what I'm monitoring. However, there are some warning signs here, and so these warning signs are that there's a lot of sell side that hasn't been taken. Okay, so I'm fast forwarding to where I actually entered. This is about the time that I entered, so I'm just going to make this 2 times as fast so that we can kind of speed through this. But it didn't actually go down to 50%. So I'm making my adjustments, and I'm not being super patient with the 50%, because I do find that a lot of times these little order blocks do get respected. So I'm eager to enter, a little impulsive to be honest, and I do go into a little bit of profit, and then you'll see what happens. So you can note the time at 7:30. And then it starts pushing down. So one of the things that should be a warning sign to me, because I love to sell and I love breakers. So this is a 15-minute breaker, which should have been a warning sign, because all the sell side is down here. It hasn't been taken yet. So that's something that I really wasn't paying attention to. Okay, so this is pushing down. It's already past the mean threshold, and it's pushing down pretty aggressively. So again, these are all warning signs. Strong displacement down. It's most likely going down. All right, so I am looking at the accumulation here by the New York Open. Okay, so we've already had the New York Stock Exchange open, which is up here. And so I'm just thinking, okay, so pretty soon this is going to go up. I'm setting my alerts, and I'm just holding strong and having faith that this is going to go. All right, so I see this as a positive. It's starting to push up, and I do believe that it creates a small fair value gap. Now, one thing that I do have to note is that I'm not loving the funded trader 8 cap. For one, it's limited on 50 lots, so I'm not allowed to risk more than maybe 1.5% per trade, and so that's not super appealing to me. And then also their spreads are not very great. So anytime that I'm entering fairly similarly to FTMO, I get a really poor position with 8 cap, so I'm not really loving that. Okay, so I'm just adjusting my TPs. I have my alert set and I like that fair value gap. I'm kind of just measuring what 5 handles is, and I would technically have gotten 5 handles from that push up. However, I am looking for this buy side to be taken. So here's another warning sign, this 1 minute fair value gap. It is kind of pushing up, but it's very anemic. It's not pushing up with a strong conviction. So that's kind of where its strong conviction is going down. So again, another warning sign, if you want to say that. And then another thing to note is that the close of this bullish candle was below this. So it's not pushing up past this order block and creating new order blocks on the way up. So again, more warning signs that I was not paying attention and not noting. Okay, so being down in the 1 minute, I actually trimmed my risk to these wicks here. And so that really saved the 1%. So I risked 1% in the morning, and I was not expecting this to go any lower than this order block here. So that's kind of where I like this trade. I learned from this trade that, you know what, my risk management was pretty good in this trade. So I like to evaluate after my trades, after everything is said and done. There's no emotions tied to it. It's a lesson that I can learn, and I can really dig in with some curiosity as to why the trade failed. So here I'm getting stopped out. So I lost 0.39 and 0.6. So again, this was on its way down, and it was going to go down a lot. So it's a really good thing that I did not stay in it, and I moved my stop to those wicks. And quite frankly, I walked away from this. So I have about 27 more minutes, and you can see that I just start journaling. I'm looking for possibly another trade with my confirmations. However, that sell side is being attacked pretty aggressively, and after it's taken, there's really no sell to be had, so I just walk away from it. Okay, so that's my morning trade, and it was a loss. So 0.39, I lost 0.39 on my FTMO, and I lost 0.6 on my funded trader account. So that's okay, because at the end of the day, I actually traded the PM session. So one caveat before I show you the PM trade is that I actually had a family emergency. My dog was really sick, and so I was really distraught between the AM session and the PM session. And what I don't normally love to do is show up to the charts really emotional. So I typically just take the rest of the day off. However, by the time the PM session came, I had gotten all of my emotions out, and I was feeling pretty strong. So I made the conscious decision to actually show up to the charts and look for a trade. Okay, so let's dive into what I did during the PM session. Okay, so this is the PM session. I did see that all the sell side had been taken, accumulated below all of the daily opens, and pretty much came down below the daily open. So that turquoise line was really important for me to pay attention to as a lesson learned, because the power 3, as ICT says, is manipulation, accumulation, and then distribution. So it definitely came down to that daily low. That was a really good buy opportunity, and then it pushed up and started going for buy side. So I did see this opportunity, this 5 minute and 15 minute fair value gap, and that's where I entered. So let's just watch my PM trade. And another thing that I want to share is that after a loss, I typically half my risk. So I risked 1% and lost, what I lost in the morning. However, in the afternoon session, I actually started with 0.5%. So that's my risk tolerance for the afternoon. It's kind of an ICT rule that I like to follow most of the time. Okay, so this is the PM session, and you can see that this 5 minute fair value gap is starting to be dipped into. And also there's an order block here. So whether this is an order block down here, this is kind of where I'm looking for it to continue up. So it can't go any lower than that, so that's where my stop is. And another thing is this green line is that New York Open, and this is the New York Stock Exchange Open. So it's between those two and it should respect that New York Open. All right, so I'm in the trade and it is filling some 1 minute fair value gap and also 5 minute and 15 minute fair value gaps. And so it does push down. So I do have to endure some drawdown. It doesn't just immediately go up. And it does create a 5 minute fair value gap. However, it does oscillate and rebalance some of that. So I do like the fact that it didn't just leave that and it wasn't a breakaway gap to go to the downside. Okay, so this is where the 1 hour, I am watching for the 1 hour to close in 3 minutes. And I want that 1 hour to be above this order block here. So I am really looking for the structure to continue to show bullishness. And so that's where I want this 1 hour candle to actually close above these candles here. Okay, so let's fast forward this a little bit. We have 2.5 minutes. And so I'm gonna speed it up by 30 seconds. Okay, so the 1 hour candle does indeed close above. However, there still has to be a little bit of drawdown just to overlap those 1 hour candles a little bit, and then it does start pushing up. So I'm looking for this order block not to be disrespected. So that's where my stop loss is. I am moving and trimming my risk a little bit because I do feel like that's the order block that will be respected. It's also synonymous with the 15-minute order block. And so those series of candles, the black candles, should be respected. And so should those 1 minute candles. So that's what I'm expecting, is that 1 minute order block to be respected. All right, so I'm gonna fast forward because I do have the market structure shift and that is looking pretty good. I do trim my risk a little bit more as far as like going to just below half of that wick. So I'm not expecting this price to be returned to. Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward this because it does spend some time retracing a bit. And there is a moment where I open my risk again. So again, like I said in another video of mine, that I don't open my risk more than I actually risked in the first place. So not anything more than 0.5%. So my original risk is that lower red hash, and so it's not below that. Okay, so I like that 1 minute fair value gap. It's showing some indication that it's going to continue up, and I am moving my stop back to that 50% of that wick. All right, so I'm just going to speed this up because it does end up taking some buy side, and that buy side I now have marked up. I'm planning on taking a partial because this trade is taking a little bit longer than I expect. And one thing, if you do know something about yourself, you know kind of the not just your risk tolerance, but also the time that you are willing to be focused on the charts and willing to be really committed to a trade. So I do know that my time limit, especially after that emotional morning that I had, my time and my focus was really limited. So I was looking for this to be a fast trade and for me to recoup a little bit of what I got in the morning, if not all of it and beyond. So I was committed to this trade. I was very focused. However, my attention span and my energy was a little bit more limited in the afternoon. So you can see this having some nice pushes up, and we are starting to go for the buy side. Okay, so had I closed this right there, I would have broke even for the day, and I'm totally okay with that because I believe I do end up taking 0.5% off. And I do endure more drawdown, so it was a lot of wiki back and forth movement, and it did take that short-term low. And had I not been aware, I would have gotten stopped out. So I did move my stop down to the original position. So one thing is that I'm still learning when to actually move my stops, and that's definitely something that I'm working on. Okay, so price does end up going back up, and it's made fairly equal highs. I'm still feeling like this is a trade that I want to keep and keep on. I do like that 5 minute fair value gap that was overlapping, that respected and supported price. And so that's another thing that I was looking at. And so again, I'm kind of playing around with my stops, making sure that I'm trimming risk and not opening up my risk. And this is where I say that I'm going to take 25% off, and then I change my mind because it's really starting to just slow down. So it's really not reacting the way that I want it to. It's not really taking buy side with authority. And so it's starting to go down again. And quite frankly, I'm kind of getting tired of this trade. So this is where I do say that I'm going to actually take off 50%. And that's what I end up doing here. So once that is taken with authority, I do end up taking 50%. So let's speed that up. Okay, so here's where I have 50% set for both of them. And I do end up taking both of 50% off of each position. So I recoup a little bit from each, and that's great. I trim my risk again, so let's just see how the rest of the trade goes. All right, so now I'm at 0.21, so I did recoup a little bit, and then I'm at 0.42 for the day for the funded trader. Okay, so I'm gonna just fast forward this. This does end up retracing. It was a lot of back and forth, and quite frankly, I didn't have the emotional durability and endurance to actually stick with this trade. So it does end up going to my take profit. However, I just was kind of tired of being in this trade. And so that's kind of where I moved my stop to break even, and I end up getting taken out here pretty soon. So it was a whole lot of back and forth. It wasn't respecting a lot of the fair value gaps. It was very wicky, and those are not the kind of trades that I like to stay in. Okay, so again, 0.42, this is kind of at break even. So I end up just with break even on that second half of my trade. So it's negative 0.42 and then negative 0.19 for FTMO. So the end result was that I lost that day. So the end balance for the funded trader was 2.87 for the day, and my end balance for FTMO was 2.84 for FTMO. And so I was still in profit, and I'm pretty happy with that. I am not showing my balances because I have taken trades from that day. So I have a Friday trade and a Monday trade to actually share with you. So at the end of that third video that I'm going to be sharing, I will show my balances. That way you're all caught up and everything is transparent. All right, so I do want to kind of share with you that, trading is an up and down roller coaster, and the less you can put your emotions in and just take the losses and take the lumps and not be really emotionally affected by that, that's going to keep you in the game for the long haul. Okay, so just to recap, I did take a small loss on both accounts that day. So day 5 ended up with the funded trader. I lost 0.6 in the morning, risking 1%, and I got back 0.18% profit in the afternoon session. So for the total loss for the day was negative 0.42, and so the end balance was 2.87. So that's still in profit, and I was pretty happy with that, especially after the morning that I had. Okay, so FTMO, the morning loss was negative 0.39, and the PM I recouped 0.2%. So I did take a loss of negative 0.19%, and that ended up with the balance of 2.84. So at the end of the day, not a super bad day, but it was something that took a lot of discipline to half my risk, to show up really focused, and to really manage my trade in a way that still profited me. So I hope that you got value from this video, and continue this journey with me. Subscribe below, because I will be reviewing my next couple of days of trading, and I look forward to seeing you there. All right, talk to you soon. Bye. Okay, so just to recap on the charts that are static, that the 26th, I did take this loss. I was expecting price to go up, and it ended up going down for sell side first. So that was my morning trade. The ideal trade would have been that sell that off of that breaker, and you can just see the breaker there. So let me just put the ideal trade here. And you can see off of that breaker, it would have been a beautiful trade. So that's okay. I'm okay with that. And it was a small loss. I mitigated that loss. All right, so the PM trade, and I'm just going to move this over a little bit. You can see what the PM trade ended up doing. And so this was the PM trade. Again, it was just really wicky, and it just came. I took 50% off here. I was expecting it to take that buy side, and then there's also a daily high up here. So that's where the terminus target was. It did hit it nicely. However, it did take quite a bit of time. So that was something that I didn't have the emotional strength that morning to actually do that. So it was a 2-hour trade. And so I was really only in it for about an hour. So just to be honest, that's kind of how I monitor my energy. What I like to trade is the trades that are really expansive, that move really fast. And I'm okay with getting little small wins and losses here and there because I know that the big one is around the corner. All right, so I hope you got a lot of value from that. And I look forward to breaking down more of my trades in the next couple of videos. So subscribe below if you want to continue this journey with me to the 7-figure mark. I know I'm going to get there. It's just a matter of time. Okay, so we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.